So welcome everyone. I guess, did you do roll call already, Don?
I have not.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Angela Brewer.
Present.
Nikki Engel.
Present.
Linda Flanders.
I
Still
see her.
muted.
I can see her, yeah.
She raised her hand.
I see
So
it. Okay.
sorry, I couldn't find my mute button.
Ila Marie Granda. Nazra Hassan. Vicki Hunter.
I am here.
Sherry Johnson.
Present.
Maya Mason. Actually, Maya said she was going to be here, but she's going to be a little late. Angelisa Mays Andrews. Savannah Riddle.
Here.
Jeff Spees.
Here.
Angela Thompson.
Present.
And Corey is not going to be here today. Tana Welter.
It's
Here.
Hannah.
I see it now.
Here, thank you.
Abby Wicklius, is that correct?
Wickilius. And I'm here.
Wickilius. Lauren Zidane.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Don. So do we have any new members? Anybody who's very new?
We do. We have Sherry, who this is her first meeting, and we've got Abby, who this is her first meeting.
Oh, great. Would you mind just very briefly introducing yourself to us, and then maybe the rest of us can do quick, at least affiliations, so you kind of know who we are.
Sure. That would be great. Thank you. I'm Sherry Johnson, and I am with Pine County Probation. I am a juvenile agent and also a supervisor here in the office, and I'm representing MACPO, Minnesota Association of County Probation Officers.
Great. Thank you, and welcome, Sherry.
Thank you.
Abby?
Yes, I'm Abby Wickilius. I'm the Lyon County attorney. That's Marshall, Minnesota, and I am the new MCAA rep.
And Abby, you were with us last meeting, weren't you?
I was, yes.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for that, and welcome, Abby. So we're gonna just, like I said, let's make this quick because we have a lot to do today, but I think if we go around, maybe do popcorn, really quick introductions. I'm Vicki Hunter, and I'm one of the two chairs of the task force, and I am a professor at MSU Mankato who runs the women's college program at Shakopee. And Angela, would you go next?
Which one?
You, sorry.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Angela Brewer. I'm the Director of Community Corrections in Wright County, so probation, supervised release, and pretrial services. And I represent MACAC, the Minnesota Association of Community Corrections Act Counties.
How about the other Angela?
Oh, sorry, Vicki.
That's okay. Angela Thompson.
Good morning. I'm Angela Thompson. I'm an OBGYN. I have experience treating justice involved women and girls through the course of my career.
Okay. How about Jeff?
Good morning. My name is Jeff Spees. I am a program director. Work at the correctional facility in Shakopee. My main responsibilities are working with the case management team and elective programming and all that. I've been with this committee for, boy, it seems not as long, but this is the third year, so I've been here a bit.
Great.
Welcome to the new people.
Yeah. Savannah, could you go next?
Hello, I'm Savannah Riddle. I am the Maternal Child Health Manager at the Minnesota Department of Health. Welcome.
Yeah, great. Linda, could you go next?
Hi, I'm Linda Flanders. I'm a county commissioner in Goodhue County, and I'm a liaison for the Association of Minnesota Counties.
Great, thanks. Tana?
Hi, I'm Tana Welter. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in St. Paul. So mental health therapist, work with teens and families, and have a long history working in juvenile facilities, residential treatment, that kind of stuff. And I've been on the task force for 4 years now and very excited about our new members. Thank you.
Awesome. Is that Nikki I see sitting at the table? Sorry, I can't see people that well.
Yes, it is.
It's me.
Okay.
My name is Nikki Engel. I am here representing Violence Free Minnesota, which is the state's anti-domestic violence coalition. So we're involved in this work because, as you all know, many women enter and are in the criminal justice system with gender-based violence backgrounds and histories. So thank you.
Okay. And Don, am I missing any members?
Lauren is also here.
Okay. Hi, Lauren. Sorry about that. I couldn't.
No,
I
it's
can't.
okay. I'm hiding in the corner. I'm Lauren Zidane. I'm with the Office of Ombuds for Corrections. I'm an investigator. I work specifically with the juveniles and at Shakopee Prison.
Excellent. That is Crystal sitting there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Crystal, could you go next?
Yes, we are 4 people in a very large room, so it makes sense that you can't really see us. I'm Crystal Braggy. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Client Services and Supports for the department, so overseeing all of the programs and services for people who are incarcerated and those who are back in communities. And I am Commissioner Schnell's liaison to the task force, so I'm not an official member.
And to one of our most important associates, Don, could you go next?
Hi, I'm Don Click. I have been in email contact with both of you. I staff the meeting, so I send out notices and collect information and then redistribute it.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Don, you can see everyone. Did I miss anyone?
I don't think so. I think everyone got hit. Awesome.
Well, welcome again to the new members, and hopefully we'll be welcoming some more new members pretty soon. One announcement, a couple of announcements actually I want to make really quick. There are some of us who are approaching expiration, and by that I don't mean death, I mean our membership. Tana, me, Jeff, Corey, and Nikki. Don, can you quickly say what we need to do if we would like to be considered to remain on the task force?
So for anybody who is an open appointment, which I'm going to send out a copy of the roster showing open appointments, direct appointments. And I'll do that right after this meeting. But if you're an open appointment, you just have to reach out to the chairs and ask for renomination. And that can be done as simply as with an email. If you are a direct appointment, like a MAC-AC appointment, a MAC-PO appointment, you should reach out to your appropriate president or chairperson and ask them to renominate you.
Okay, wonderful. I think all of the people I listed that I saw on the site as people whose positions were approaching expiration are all open. Oh no, Jeff. Everyone but Jeff is an open appointment. So yes. So Tana and Nikki, Corey's not here, and myself, I will reach out to myself, and the rest of you can reach out too. Okay. All right, thanks for that. And then also we have 4 positions open. 3 of those are open positions that, and just for people who are relatively new, open position means that the way a new member is appointed is that the task force um, identifies an appropriate person for the position. And then, you know, with some discussion, we consider the people who have applied and forward someone's name to the commissioner to be considered. So so 3 of those are open. We have 1 that is identified for a justice impacted person. This another one for someone who does advocacy for justice involved women, and then DHS / MIAC, so Indian Affairs person, and those are all, from what Don told me, those are all open positions. So
The
I
the
go.
the MIAC, the DHS MIAC person is a direct appointment.
So then we only have 2, right?
You've got 1 who's lived criminal experience,
Right,
1 who's a justice impact advocacy,
right.
and then 1 justice impacted victimization expertise.
Oh,
That's Paula's old position.
I see. Okay, because I must have missed that 3rd one in our email. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So what I would like to do is pull together a ad hoc membership committee to consider the applicants. We don't have a lot of applicants to consider. The ones we do have look very strong to me. For the only one we don't have an applicant, I think that would fit for would be the MIAC. Sorry, I'm sorry, that is not open. So strike that. So yeah. Anyway, is anyone here interested in serving on an ad hoc committee? Wouldn't involve a whole lot of time. It would involve reviewing some applications and conferring with others on the committee to talk about who to move forward to the commissioner. And I can only go ahead.
This is Angela. I'm just curious, is that application process closed at this time?
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge, it is not. Is that correct, Don?
People can still apply at any time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, once we move some names forward, you know, it's probably going to be kind of past the point of no return then. Yeah, is that something, would you like, are you just asking because you might know someone, or are you asking because you want to serve on the committee?
I don't have capacity to serve on another committee right now, but I do have a justice impacted woman who has been through supervision, prison, supervised release, and treatment court that I think would be wonderful to serve on this task force if she's interested and willing, and she's been very active in work since being in recovery. So I'd like an opportunity to reach out to her.
Yes, please do, but also, you know, let her know that it's kind of time limited, so to try to get the application in as soon as possible.
I will send out the link to the entire group on how to apply and where to go to apply.
Excellent. Thanks, Don. All right. So again, it's out there. Who would like to, is there anyone who would be willing to, I mean, otherwise it's probably just going to be me and Corey, honestly. That's what it's going to be.
I can help.
Tana,
Yeah,
okay, thanks.
Tana,
Who
Savannah.
said me too?
Savannah Riddle.
Savannah. Oh, thanks. Okay, that's perfect then. I will reach out and include Don to both of you, and you know, we can get together and kind of go over the apps and make a recommendation. All right, let's see. So the next thing we have is the DHS maltreatment investigation process and intersections with DOC inspection and enforcement. let's see, sorry, keep trying to flip back and forth between the agenda and you all. So Don, do we have a speaker, correct?
Yes,
Talk
Maggie
about
Hansen
this?
is
Yes.
online.
All right. So Maggie, do you have a present, like something you need to share, or maybe you've already talked to Don about that?
I do have a slide deck, but it's blocking me from sharing it. And I'm trying.
Yeah, why don't you give it a try now that you're a panelist?
Okay, let's see here.
And if anything, I can make...
Let me know if you can see this.
Yes, we can
There we
see
go.
it.
Perfect.
So,
Wonderful.
yes.
Good news.
So,
So yes,
Meg,
I'll
I'll leave your introduction up to you, and I'm just going to mute myself and let you do your thing.
Perfect. My name is Maggie Hansen. I manage the Intake and Investigations unit here at DHS Licensing. Christy Strang and I have worked closely together for way more than 20 years now. Started out as investigators many moons ago, and continue to work closely both in our roles, myself here at DHS and Christy at DOC. And I don't know, Christy, if everybody is familiar with you. I don't know if you need to give an introduction at all.
Yeah, I think I've been a part of a couple of these meetings, but I'll just reintroduce myself. Christy Strang, Director of Inspections and Enforcement. I have been here just shy of 3 years. And prior to that, like Maggie said, I started out at DHS in 2004 as a maltreatment investigator, and then moved around DHS a bit and focused on licensing 2960 facilities. So very familiar with 2960 and how maltreatment investigations work, as well as licensing inspections. So glad to be here today.
Great. Well, I'll just jump into it. This is a presentation. This is a slide deck. I just sort of updated it briefly the other day. This is a slide deck that we use for DOC programs. We initially started doing these trainings when we took over jurisdiction for maltreatment. So I thought it would just be an easy way for us to just sort of run through our process and kind of the history of how DHS got involved with DOC facilities. Just a brief rundown here of us here at DHS. We are part of the Office of Inspector General. Our current Inspector General is James Clark. My unit is within the licensing division, and my particular unit has 2 areas. One is the central intake unit, and then the second unit is the maltreatment investigations unit. Like I mentioned, I manage that this unit. I started out here 23 years ago, and like Christy, started out as an investigator, and then started supervising the intake unit, and then about 4 years ago started managing both the intake and the maltreatment unit. So I have a group of currently 5 supervisors between the 2 units, and 20 maltreatment investigators, 8 assessors, and 3 intake staff on my team. I just threw in some information here for Christy, just and maybe if you want to jump in a little bit, Christy, and talk a bit about your unit, unless everybody's pretty familiar.
So I think we have some new members here, Maggie, so I'm just going to run down our DOC org chart quickly. So inspection and enforcement is also part of the Office of Inspector General here at the Department of Corrections. Mike Garland is our Inspector General. And then I supervise the inspection and enforcement unit. And currently we have oversight of 2911 facilities, which are our jails. And then we have also responsibility for the 2960 facilities. So we have 3 inspectors assigned specifically to our 2960 facilities. Jake Nelson, Stephanie Cantola, and Peter Zimprich are our juvenile inspectors.
Great. So just a little history here. In July of 2017, DHS received a jurisdiction through a change of statute to assess and investigate maltreatment in children's residential facilities licensed by DOC. So DHS also licenses children's residential facilities. And prior to July of 2017, the 87 counties within the state of Minnesota were responsible for investigating allegations of maltreatment in DOC licensed CRFs. And what we were finding was that every county was doing it differently. Sometimes they were investigating, sometimes they weren't. There was not a lot of consistency. DHS would find maltreatment for certain allegations where the county wouldn't. And so at that point, there was legislation passed that changed that jurisdiction over to DHS. However, it is a limited scope. We only look at maltreatment, whether it's maltreatment by the facility, by facility staff, and those incidents that are occurring within the facility. But any other incidents or allegations not involving the facility would remain within child protection's jurisdiction. So if a child's on a home visit, something happens at home with mom and dad, that remains with the county. In addition, I will point out too, we do not have any licensing authority over the DOC licensed programs. So something that we might cite at a DHS licensed CRF, we would not cite at a DOC program. We would send our findings over to DOC and then they would evaluate for any potential licensing concerns. We do receive reports a couple of different ways regarding DOC programs. If the individual receiving services in a CRF is an adult, those reports come to us from the Minnesota Adult Abuse Reporting Center. And they gather the information, process it, and then determine who the lead investigative agency is. And if they determine that this, yes, is a DOC licensed CRF, those reports come our way from Mark. We also get reports involving children. Obviously, the majority of the individuals in receiving services at CRFs fall under the maltreatment of minors. So we do get some reports involving children, or a lot, the majority. And those can come from local child protection. It can come from DHS licensing, DOC licensing, law enforcement, from the Tribal Social Services Agency or police, and of course also case managers, physicians, community members, school teachers, you name it. Anybody who's a mandated reporter can contact us directly or go through law enforcement or their local welfare agency. For vulnerable adults in DOC facilities, it's a little tricky. Sometimes they are considered a vulnerable adult and sometimes they're not. For example, at our Red Wing facility, I can't think of a time in recent history where an individual at Red Wing was determined to be a vulnerable adult. So unless they are determined to be a vulnerable adult, we do not have jurisdiction, but any child receiving services at a DOC licensed CRF, we do have jurisdiction. And so we do analyze that very closely when it comes to adults receiving services at a DOC facility. And again, in the Vulnerable Adults Act, it does specifically state a person 18 years of age or older in a DOC licensed facility is not considered a vulnerable adult. So they must have, and this is the language in statute, impairments or diagnoses that determine them to be functional vulnerable adults. And the program is required to complete that functional assessment to determine vulnerability. And so when we do get a report for someone who's 18 years of age or older, we request that immediately upon receipt of the report and use that as part of our assessment process. And again, the maltreatment of minors is a bit more clear. That DHS is the agency responsible for screening and investigating allegations of maltreatment in juvenile correctional facilities. And again, that was adopted back in July of 2017. So boy, we've been doing this for, now that I'm looking at the dates, a lot longer than I realized we were. Again, sources of reports, I kind of covered that. One of the areas that we have started receiving more reports from recently would be our Program Integrity and Oversight Division. And that's a sort of a newer area of DHS licensing. And sometimes individuals will contact their, they have what they call a tip line and report concerns, not just at DOC licensed CRFs, but all of the licensed programs and services within the state. But for the most part, it comes from child protection or directly to our intake line or from the programs themselves. So when we receive a report of maltreatment, our central intake staff pull that information off what we call a grid. We utilize the Social Service Information System, which is the statewide database, and we create the report. Intake does just a real cursory search to see if we've already received a similar report. We might get a call from a mom on a Monday to report an incident that they learned about while visiting their youth over the weekend, and then the facility might call on Tuesday, and then maybe a case manager on Wednesday. So we do match up that history and connect those reports together. We also identify if there's a high priority need so that we get eyes on those reports sooner than later. As you can imagine, we receive, this past year, we received over 13,000 reports of alleged maltreatment in DHS and of course the DOC CRF license programs in total. So we do have a priority system to identify reports that need to be looked at sooner than later. And then once that initial work is done by intake staff, it moves over to our assessment team. We recently changed our assessment process to have what we call specialized assessors. So over time, we've become responsible for more licensed type programming, and the reports seem to be more and more complex. Obviously, our case loads are huge. We've got 8 assessors, and when you're assessing 13,000 reports a year, it can be a lot of information to retain. So we have specific staff now that do all of our DOC programs, and they of course have a backup should they be out, but this allows for the assessor to become more and more familiar with the rules and statutes that govern children's residential and help them to become more connected with the program. They know who to reach out to, who is that authorized agent, who is the individual who is responsible for doing the reporting of incidents that occur. It saves time and it helps us to make a much better decision about what to do with the report when we're more familiar. I like to say that we used to have 8 assessors that knew a little bit about a lot, and now we have assessors that know a lot about a little bit. They each are assigned to a specialty group. If we receive a report that has emergency protection concerns, or we're concerned that there's imminent risk of harm, the assessor will immediately reach out to the county or to law enforcement if something needs to be cross-reported. Obviously, we're not responsible for any criminal side of things, but if we are concerned that there's imminent risk of harm, we will reach out to other lead agencies to get them involved as well. We also will send out staff if we are concerned. We do have a DHS licensed children's residential program that I have an investigator and a licensor out today on an emergency visit due to concerns that we have. So should that happen in a DOC facility, I would reach out to Christy right away and say, hey, we've got some serious concerns. What should we do about this scenario? And then we would work together to decide next steps. So assessors then, once they do that first glance and identify if there's any immediate needs that need to be addressed, they'll go in and research the history of the facility, do a research of the alleged perpetrator and the victim. So we want to see, is this a program that we have been seeing an uptick in reports that maybe is raising a red flag? Is this a perpetrator that has had similar reports in the past? Is this an alleged victim that, you know, we've had similar reports in the past, or somebody who, you know, perhaps has been a part of a previous maltreatment report? We will gather additional information. Sometimes we'll contact the facility or the reporter. We might reach out to case managers. We might reach out to the DOC licensor or even to Christy and talk about the report to try to gather as much information as we need to make a decision on whether or not the report should be assigned for further maltreatment or if it can be screened out. And basically what happens if a report is screened out is we write up just a brief summary and we attach the copy of the report, any information we've gathered, phone notes or email notes that we may have, and then we send an email off to Christy and her team with the determination that we've made, and we give them all the information that we have gathered. So then they can take next steps and determine what they want to do. Perhaps it doesn't meet that threshold for maltreatment, but perhaps there's some licensing rule or concerns that they want to go out and look at. If it is assigned, then we also have a group of specialized investigators who have history working in children's residential programs. And so they are the ones that would be assigned a maltreatment report if further maltreatment investigation is needed. And again, we do that because they have experience, you know, working in a CRF facility, experience working with youth. They have a much greater understanding of the rules and statutes that govern our children's residential programs. And it just gives us a much better investigative process when they are much more embedded and have a clear understanding of those rules and statutes. When we make a decision about a report, we're required by statute to give initial disposition. And so that letter goes to the reporter. So if I'm the case manager that called in a concern, I'm going to get a letter that explains what we've done. Some people opt out of that letter, but for the most part, I would say probably 80% of the time, individuals want to get that letter explaining what is done. If it is assigned for maltreatment investigation, our investigators reach out directly to the reporter because they're going to want to do an interview and gather more information. When someone calls into our intake line or we get an incident report, you know, it's just more high-level information. So we'll always do an interview with that reporter and gather more information if they have it. And again, the letter that goes out related to the DOC programs identifies that A, we've assigned it, or B, we haven't assigned it, but that we have provided this information to the Department of Corrections for further review. So when it is assigned for investigation, the investigator first looks at it for priority. Do I need to go out today, tomorrow? Should I gather some information first before I go out? So they create their strategy and their plan for how they're going to conduct the investigation. And we can do site visits one of two ways. One is announced, where we call ahead of time and say, hey, we want to come out. Here are the people we want to interview. These are the documents I want to see before I come out. This is the time frame, what works for you, and we coordinate that visit. However, in situations where perhaps the facility has not reported to us and we're not quite sure why, or it's a program that we've had some significant concerns about, we're going to go out unannounced and we're just going to show up and knock on the door and say, I'm here to conduct this investigation. When we're on site, we complete interviews with the alleged victims, witnesses, staff persons. We always interview the alleged perpetrator last. And that's so that we have as much information as possible before talking with that alleged perpetrator. And again, sometimes there isn't a particular person that's identified as the alleged perpetrator. The facility itself can be considered a perpetrator. And then we review the client files, policies and procedures, staff files. We look at staff training. We look at medical records. We will sometimes reach out to law enforcement and get records. We always check background study status for staff. And then sometimes we'll even reach out to case managers to gather additional information from them about the child's history. When our investigation is complete, we write up a public summary, and that's called our investigative memorandum. And it's a report that's written in a way that keeps the identity of everybody involved in the report confidential. So we use acronyms. So the child would be the AV, which stands for alleged victim. The alleged perpetrator would be staff person 1. Others involved, maybe a teacher on site would be a P, P1, P2. Medical professionals are referred to as MPs. So we use terms in the IM that help to keep the identity of those that have provided our investigator with information private. Now, with that being said, sometimes there's no way around writing an IM without people gleaning or figuring out who may have said what. But we always emphasize to individuals that we talk to that our office will neither confirm or deny anybody's identity unless ordered to do so by court order. Our IM, it's in statute pretty specific what we need to have in our IMs. It needs to have the initial allegations, what was found out during the investigation, what our determination is, the responsibility, and then any required action by DHS. Again, something that's a little different between our DOC and our DHS license programs is that we don't take any licensing action like we would perhaps with a DHS license program. We can't put a program on a temporary immediate suspension or revoke a license or put them on a conditional license. That's all referred back to the Department of Corrections. Once the IM is written, the report gets distributed, and that goes out to anybody who has A, requested a copy of the report, or B, was part of the investigation. So anybody that we was involved in the report, so the alleged perpetrator, the guardians or case managers of the alleged victim, the facility authorized agent, individuals who may have reported or were more involved in the report and that have requested a copy will also get a copy. And then of course we always send that information, like I said, to DOC, and they will review that IM and findings and decide if there's any other action warranted on their end. I will note too that DHS is required to post substantiated reports of maltreatment to the public. So any report that is maltreatment determined, or if we do happen to investigate a report involving a vulnerable adult, if it's substantiated or inconclusive, those reports get posted to licensing lookup, and there's a listserv that goes out daily of any reports that are substantiated. And those are anybody who signs up for that listserv can get that email. And then there's also a website called Licensing Lookup, and they're posted to that. So individuals can go in and search by facility name or license number and look to see if there's substantiated reports of maltreatment for any facility. So that's just a brief rundown on my end. And I can send this slide deck if anybody's interested in having it just for your records. It includes our contact information, in case you need that. And then if anybody has any questions for me or Christy, if there's anything you want to add on the DOC side, that would be helpful.
I just wanted to mention, I put a link in the chat to the DHS licensing lookup, because that's where you guys can go search any sort of maltreatment findings related to DOC licensed facilities.
Am I muted? I see Angela has her hands up, but I'm hoping maybe before we go to questions, Christy, can you talk about what happens on your team side once you do receive this information from DHS? Because I think that will be helpful and is probably where a lot of questions would be coming in as well.
Yeah. So as Maggie mentioned, oftentimes we are the ones that are sending the information to DHS licensing, because we're receiving information from the facilities via a phone call or a parent concern, possibly a critical incident report that's coming in. So in all cases, when we send over a report or Maggie receives a report, Maggie's team receives a report, we are automatically opening an investigation, essentially. And that's either to monitor the maltreatment investigation, if they open that for investigation, or if they don't assign it, then we're keeping it open to look into any sort of licensing actions or licensing concerns that we want to investigate. So if Maggie's team opens an investigation, we essentially just work with that investigator throughout the process. And then once they issue their findings, then we determine from there what we want to do with it. Does that help? So we don't always want to, I mean, it really kind of depends on the allegation that's coming in. If maltreatment is investigating, we tend to just kind of let maltreatment go in, do their work, work with the investigator, and kind of wait for that process to conclude before we would go in. We don't want to step on maltreatment's toes in terms of our work that we may need to do.
That makes sense. Maybe I'll ask one more follow-up question, then I'll stop, I promise. Can you give a sense of the range of options that exist for your team based on what those maltreatment findings could be?
Is that question for Maggie or for me?
No, that's for you, Christy. Sorry.
So what we can do based on the maltreatment findings?
Yeah. So if it is a substantiated report, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, then it, like, you know, as Maggie shared, and I think this actually was prompted by somebody getting one of those emails and seeing that there was a substantiated report. I think then it's, what are the range of things that DOC and its licensing capacity can do based on those findings from DHS? Is that clearer?
Yeah. So unfortunately, Crystal, right now statute limits us to either give a license or take away a license. And that's something that we are working on right now with the legislature to pass new language under 241 to be able to take other licensing actions, such as a conditional license, temporary immediate suspension, very similar to what we can do with our other licensed facilities under 241.
So can I ask a clarifying question to that? Christy, it's been many months since I remember you coming here and talking about this. And I remember at that time, there was a lack of clarity around whether DOC could even revoke a license. Did that get clarified then?
Yes, we can revoke a license. Okay. We can issue a license or we can take away a license.
Okay.
And that's where we have limitations currently.
Okay. Thank you. So is that a next, sorry, you said you're working to create these other options. Is that a next legislative session project? What is the kind of, how are you guys doing that?
That's current work happening right now. So we are so the draft is being reviewed currently. So if this passes this session, we will have the authority to again, issue a conditional, temporary, immediate suspension. We'll have a lot of other options.
Awesome.
Within our tool belt.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions for Christy or Maggie? I guess I am curious what, if you are able to expand on what some of those other options are beyond conditional license. Are there more? It sounded like there were more.
Yeah, so it would be conditional license, immediate suspension, or I'm sorry, temporary immediate suspension, and conditional.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Angela's hand is up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering, you mentioned the specialized assessors for, initial review of reports. And based on what those assessors information gathering reveals, there's either a searchable report that's generated, or the concern has been screened out. I'm wondering, are those screened out reports public as well, just to get a sense of like how many are coming in and are screened out versus the ones that do go through the review process to generate an investigative
Yeah, no,
memorandum?
the reports that come to us are all confidential information. The only public information that is able to be provided is that public summary, like I said, that's written in a way that keeps the identity of individuals confidential. We can and often do receive data requests that where we can provide basic information, like this is the number of reports that were received at this program during this time period. In some cases, we can get somewhat specific, like there was this number of neglect cases and this number of physical abuse and this number of sexual abuse, but we can't give any more specific information from that, other than that. But statute language is very specific that those reports that are made to the common entry point, whether it's DHS or the county or MARC, are confidential information, and that detail cannot be released. There have been times where a judge has court ordered the release of that information, and then of course we would always comply with that. But we have a legal team here at DHS, and they monitor all the data requests that come in and determine what can be released and what can't.
Oh, okay, thank you. And the assessors, you said there were 8 assessors. Are they the same for juvenile and adult?
So I have 8 assessors total, and I have 2 that are assigned to DOC programs, or CRF and DOC programs, and then 2 backups. And then the remaining, all of our assessors assess home and community-based services. They're our biggest bulk of program type here at DHS. And then the rest are split off into, we have some that do mental health, some that do substance use disorder, some that do, DOC, CRF, and so 8 as a whole. But 4 that work CRF and DOC assessments.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, the gender breakdown, if you know, what you said there were 13,000 reports, and was that 2025, I assume?
Including all DHS licensed programs. So yeah, the bulk of that is home and community-based services for individuals with developmental disabilities. I would say out of those 13,000, probably 25% are children's residential programs. I really couldn't say with any certainty the gender breakdown, but if I were to give a guess, I would say it's pretty close to 50-50. You know, there are some programs that are licensed just for females. There's some that have, you know, a girls unit, a males unit. But I would say for the most part, we receive just as many reports for juvenile females as we do for juvenile males.
Just to clarify that, I assume that the percentage breakdown by gender for kids is similar for adults in that girls and women are far less percentage of detained individuals. And so if half of them are girls, that seems like it would be disproportionate for girls. And if that's the case, I'm just curious if that is the case, I guess.
Yeah, and we've never pulled those numbers before. And again, this is just me reviewing investigation memorandums that come across my desk. But I'm not seeing where there's more reports that have an alleged, more alleged female or more alleged male victims. It seems to kind of be, a wash. I will say that that is something we would not be able to pull data on because we do not, our social service information system does not gather gender information. It's not a required field. Some people do fill it in, some don't. But there is some push in the legislature to update. There's quite a significant system modernization project going on right now that I am a part of. And that is something that certainly has been talked about being a required field, and not just male, female, but also, non-binary, like identifying in a way that is accurate and true to the individual. But we wouldn't be able to pull that data. So at this point, we wouldn't. Maybe a couple years from now we could, but this is projected to be about a 3-year project for the system modernization work.
I see. Yeah, that does seem like it would be important information since girls and LGBTQ folks are at such a higher risk, generally speaking. So, yeah.
Yep, it's definitely on the top of the priority list for us here at DHS.
Yeah, good. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, I was going to just follow up what you said, that yes, I would think that would be very important information to have. I mean, not just for us, but for anyone. So is there anything that we can do to support DHS with the legislature in asking for this?
Well, it's the legislation has had a lot of support. I do see this coming. I don't know if you recall, not this session, but the session before, there was quite a bit of testimony from county workers about this antiquated database that we have. Like my 20-year-old son is the same age as this database. And so it's absolutely, at the time it was built, it was great, but it's no longer a workable solution. And it's definitely in the works. And there's quite a large task force that's involved. I work closely with the team that is working on that. Our county partners, our tribal partners are all involved, and it's definitely something that is quite supported, not only by the individuals that utilize this system and see the importance of it, but also by our elected officials, because they've seen not just with how hard it is for county workers and state workers to use the program, but also, I'm going to call it out. We've got a huge fraud mess here at DHS, and we have no way of tracking in the system. And I think that's what's given us the biggest amount of support in getting this. Unfortunately, that's what it took. We've taken this to the legislature for we've been in the system now 6 years, and I've sent legislation forward to update our system every year. So it took this fraud, I think, to finally get this through, but I'm very confident in the team that's working on that. And then we are also building a separate licensing system here at DHS, because CWIS, the Child Welfare Information System, the funding for that only covers child maltreatment. The state of Minnesota is going to piggyback adult maltreatment, but it won't piggyback licensing. So we here are also building a new licensing database system that will interact with the statewide system. And that is also an important aspect of our system, is that identification of you know, some of these things that we can't capture now, because a report can come in as a licensing concern and not get assigned for maltreatment, but that data is still valuable. And so we will be capturing it in our own system as well. But again, we're talking, this is a 3-year project before it'll be, and you know, anywhere near being done. So.
Can I make a suggestion or a request for, I'm wondering for June's agenda? Could someone from the DOC, I don't know if that would be you, Crystal, or someone else, give us a brief legislative wrap up? Like, what did the DOC propose that went through? I would be really curious to see like where the licensing lands. And I imagine you all have other things that you've passed that might be of interest to the work we do.
I would be glad to do a legislative update or invite the correct person from our team to do so.
Great suggestion, Nikki. Any other quick questions for Maggie or Christy? We do kind of need to get on to the next thing, but if there are any burning questions. All right. Thank you both for this has been really helpful and informative for you know, the issue of juvenile inspections that we've been trying to get our heads around. So yeah, thank you both for coming.
No problem. And I will put out there too, if anybody ever has any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me at any time. And I did forward the slide deck. So if Dawn knows everybody's email and can send that if you're interested in it. If not, delete it, but my contact information is there. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Okay, looks like next on our agenda is the conference update, and I'll just turn that over to Nikki and the other conference committee members.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki. So it's me, Tana, Maya, and Angela, and Angelisa. So just briefly, I'll just say we've gotten a quote from the River's Edge Convention Center. We're going to get a second quote, I think, from the Waite Park folks, just to see, you know, give us a couple quotes is better than one, right? Let's see what, we don't have a lot of money to work with here, right? So let's see what's the best bang for our buck. We have had several conversations now with Heather Callier. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. She's the conference planner that worked with the team last time. So we have some initial conversations with her. And we have a regular monthly meeting on the calendar now. This month we'll be meeting with the folks at RS Eden. Vicki, are they a fiscal sponsor for us? Like, okay, yes, you're nodding. So
they're a fiscal agent, meaning we're a DOC task force, so we cannot have money ourselves as a task force. So it has to be managed. It used to be managed by Amicus. And for some reason that came to an end, and now RS Eden has been doing that for quite a few years. But yeah, it's basically you tell them how to spend the money and they spend it. That's kind of how it works.
So they're coming to our meeting this month as well. So just want to give you guys a heads up just on the kind of moving pieces of this, that like we are moving on things. And we will continue to meet monthly and more often as it gets closer to the event. But that's just like super high level. We need help, and we are going to, I'm going to let Maya, we want to talk to y'all about dates and about conference theme, because those are kind of the next pieces we need to solidify in order to start working with Heather on what like a promotion plan could look like, right? So of course we want like a save the date. We want to get a lot of people here next year in St. Cloud. So Maya, were you okay to lead the conference theme conversation?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So we had 3 options that we came up with for the theme. I missed our last task force meeting where I think you guys had kind of talked about theme a little bit, and then we had an in-depth conversation at our last conference meeting about the theme, and we put all of our ideas into AI and had it come up with we really wanted, like, there's several things we really wanted to kind of encapsulate in the theme. So we broke it down, or we narrowed it down to 3 options, and we created a Mentimeter poll. And I asked Dawn I sent a picture of the QR code to see if it could be put in the presentation, but I think I can maybe just put it in the chat. I'm going to try. Can you put pictures in the chat?
I don't know if you can put a QR code in the chat. Can you share your screen, Maya, and like put it instead of your face?
Maybe.
We can scan it?
Why?
To share, Maya, you've got, should be at the bottom, there's a rectangle with an arrow pointing up.
Did I do it?
There you go. Yes.
Can you just, Maya, can you just share about how Mentimeters work for folks who've never done it?
So if you can go to menti.com and put in that code, but you can also just scan the QR code, and it looks like several people are already responding. And then it's not on my end, but it should, oh, there it goes. I was going to say, it should show us a little kind of graph of what people think of, or which is their preferred theme.
Interactive piece.
Yeah. Yes. So then we can hopefully move forward with our theme. We've talked about, I'm happy to create all of our kind of promotional materials in terms of, like, a save the date and flyers and all that stuff. But in order to do that, we need a theme. So, well, that's where we're at right now. And I don't know how many people are here in this meeting, but it's looking like whole story, whole person is thus far the most popular. It's looking like we got 2 more people who haven't decided yet. So yeah, I mean, I think one person hasn't responded yet, but it looks like it's pretty clear that whole story, whole person is probably the theme we'll go with. So I'll put that on my list of things for tomorrow. No, Friday. I have nothing on my list of things to do Friday, you guys. That's an unusual occurrence. So I'll start working on the save the date while I know I have time for it. Can I add something, Maya? Yes.
I love that you did this. This was kind of fun. But for those who were new or maybe not at the last meeting, we had really talked about, like, as a whole group, talked about having the conference speakers and representatives, like, attending it across the systems. So not just incarceration, but thinking about, like, community services, right? Once women are out of a correctional facility, like, kind of across all of that. So that's where these came from. We all brainstormed, like, we want to broaden it more. But then when we chatted too, just like making it still feel like we can do something about the issues. So anyways, just adding context. Yes, we are, Vicky. Vicky asked if we're still thinking about breakouts. Yes.
Yeah, I think
And
our
that's
top
where
priority or our top priority is of course solidifying the date and the site, right? So we have, if we're going with Rivers Edge Convention Center, the only Friday they have available for the size group we need, we're telling them 250 to 300 because we are thinking big, is April 2nd. But like I said, I do think we need at least one or two more quotes because we're working with our budget right now is $10,000. And of course, right, conference registration will refeed that, but we want to work with Heather. So Heather, just so you all know, I don't know if you talked about this last month, like Maya, I was also out last month with a conflict for work. But Heather will, as a conference planner, one of the things she's willing to do to work with us, because she really actually values the work of this task force and the work that we are all engaged in when it comes to women and girls in the justice system. She can provide us with like a menu of options that will keep our costs low. So what are we willing on the task force as task force members to pick up and do on our own? And then she can tackle the things that we're just like, there's no way any person on the task force has the capacity to do X. Like those of you who have done a conference before or been connected to a conference in any capacity know that like registration, like that is like, there's not a single person on this task force, I'm going to say, who has the capacity to manage registrants for the conference. That is like a huge, huge lift. So, so we need to save her with our money to the pieces that we absolutely need that support. And then like Maya said, Maya's like, I like doing graphics, right? I can do that. But it really will take all of us to put this on next April and make it a success, like manning registration tables, et cetera. So once we have the site and the date, then Vicky, for sure, we will start working on, who are the invitees? Are we doing keynotes? What are the breakouts? What's the plan, right? What's the kind of big, like organizing principles for what we want this to look like? And then how do we make our asks? What are we looking for? So.
Did I successfully stop sharing?
Yes, you did, Maya. Thank you. So Tana, Maya, or Angela, anything else we want to share today? Okay.
I think we really wanted to get a conference theme and just do a general update, I think was the plan for today. And then we are hoping we can have time at all the additional meetings, maybe not even a full half an hour, but just like always have a reoccurring spot in a meeting so that if there's updates or help that we need, or we want to do another quick poll, that we can just always have that worked in.
And if anyone who's new to the task force or is newly excited by this conference subcommittee, because we're going to do cool things like Mentimeters and want to join our small and mighty group, just reach out to me and I'll add you to the monthly. Right now we're meeting monthly. I believe it's the fourth Thursdays. Fourth Thursdays from 3 to 4 is our regular monthly call. So just reach out to me if you want to be added to the list. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much to all of you doing this. It really does feel very invigorating. So yeah, and Nikki, if it were, well, and all of you on the conference committee, if it works, we'll hold a 15-minute section for you on the agenda. But if you need more than that, just let me and Don know, and we can expand it to, what you need. But we'll just have a standing 15 minutes on the agenda each month. Does that work? Does that sound okay?
I think that's perfect. And then we'll meet at the end of the month before, right? And if we're like, oh, we would love actually 30 minutes to dig into something with you all, we'll let you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And I'm going to try to attend that meeting with R.S. Eden, just since I was the previous person to kind of be the the contact person for
I
them.
appreciate that, Vicki, just to
Yeah.
help with the transition, because this is a new, I'm not used to working with like a third party like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I know. I will say it's very easy. Like
Okay.
Paul is extremely helpful. Like that's really his intent is always just to be helpful. So
Great.
you just send him invoices and he pays them. It's really easy. I mean, obviously, as long as they're relevant. But yeah. So great. Nice job too to all of you. And I do think, there are a lot of things that task force members could do to help with the process, and maybe it would probably be easier to figure out what people might be willing to do if you came up with like a list of things. And I'm sure Heather would help with that to see if, who will volunteer for what. And I agree, absolutely agree that registration, Heather worked with Paul last year and managed all of the registration stuff. So I think that's the best route to go there. That's something for someone with experience to do. So yeah, but otherwise, yeah, if you can create a list, I think, people could sign up for things,
That's a great idea, Vicki. I think we could definitely develop that for June
Yeah.
or July, right? And just have hey, where are your skill sets? Where are your interests, right? What's your capacity going to look like over that, like probably 6 months prior to,
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any remaining questions for the task or the conference committee from anyone? Okay. I think then the next thing on the agenda is the mapping exercise of oversight and responsibility for justice impacted youth in Minnesota. Which obviously links very closely with the presentation by Christy and Maggie. Honestly, I don't work in this area. I'm very concerned about, the topic, but I don't work in the area. So I would love it if someone who has a closer connection to inspection and youth facilities would help to lead this discussion. Like, where to begin? Where do we begin?
If I can jump in, this is Crystal. I'm not that person either, Vicki, but I think I can ground in like where this came from, right? I feel like over the last several months, even the year that I've been commissioner's liaison to the group, a recurring theme has been how to see who are all the different people that have roles to play here. What are their roles? Where is there potential overlap? Where are there gaps? And I think like there have been so many useful presentations like the one that we had from DHS, and that what I understood the interest of the group was, and I think this was maybe 2-3 months ago that we talked about this, is to do something that actually gets all of this in one place, so that there's an opportunity to just assess what is currently. And I think the group has had conversation that it feels unsatisfying in a lot of ways as far as what it is currently. And then figure out, are there things that this group really wants to focus on, to highlight, to address, to advocate for, things that could be different. So that's my understanding of where the topic is coming from, Vicki. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that helps to get a conversation started. And my sense of what we heard today is that DHS is the entity that identifies maltreatment, but they can't really do anything about it beyond sending the recommendation to the DOC, and then the DOC can terminate or keep. No in between at this point. And yeah.
So that was for DHS or DOC licensed facilities, but DHS licensed facilities, I think they have a lot more authority, and that's what I heard anyway.
Okay. So coming from a person who admittedly has very little understanding of this, What is the difference between a DOC licensed juvenile facility and a DHS licensed facility? I guess I don't really, like, is one county and the other is state? Or do we not know? I bet Maya knows.
Well, to go to a DOC licensed secure facility, you have to have a criminal offense. So I'd say that'd be one of the biggest differences, right?
Okay.
Like you could in theory have a criminal offense and be in a regular DHS placement, but you wouldn't be there specifically for that offense. Like to go to a DOC facility, you'd have gone in, you'd either have been arrested on a crime and or after that you'd have been essentially, we call it adjudicated in juvenile, but you'd essentially were sentenced to a facility for that. Now there's a few non-secure facilities in the state, including my own, and for non-secure you could be with us without a criminal offense, but we're still licensed to the Department of Corrections. That's still who my license is through.
And there are
So Maya, just so if I'm understanding right, so one would have to, to be in a DOC licensed facility, one would have to have been adjudicated go through the justice system to get into a DOC licensed facility. Get that. But wouldn't there be diversion programs that people would go to a DHS licensed facility even though they were involved with the justice system? So there would be justice involved people in DHS licensed facility as diversion?
Right. So yes, so
Okay.
you can in theory, you certainly can in theory I think there are some DHS facilities that can take a youth who's been adjudicated to go there. And they're not licensed by the Department of Corrections. Courts order all kinds of things. But so if you're DHS licensed, you're not DOC licensed, I think you have some level of internal decisions on how you decide who you take in your facilities, right? But for a DOC secure facility, they have to have a criminal offense. That's, I think, in a way the difference, right? There has to be a criminal offense. You can't, a kid could go into a DHS facility who has a criminal offense, but they could also go without a criminal offense.
And Maya, why is yours licensed through the DOC?
Because we also take kids for criminal offenses.
It's both.
Yes. And on our campus, and I think as far as I know, all the non-secure correctional programs were all associated with a secure facility. So I have some kids in my building cannot go back and forth, but some kids can.
That makes sense to me. Okay. Thank you.
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm going to let Lauren talk in a second. I think one thing just to add on to Sherry's comment in the chat, I wanted to make sure it's clear is that DOC facilities also have to abide by 2960.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to add that there's also foster care homes and foster residential facilities that also fall under 2960 that also kind of complicate things. So you have your detention, your non-secure, and then your foster care homes, which the foster parents will live there, and then you have your residential where the staff are coming and going, and it's designed more like a non-secure. So all of those do fall under the umbrella of 2960, but there are some just DHS, and then the DOC does license. I believe don't quote me on this number, but there's about 8 or 9 foster home facilities, and then I don't know how many group residentials.
Okay, so I guess going back to kind of Crystal's orientation, like how we got to these concerns. I do have a little bit better understanding now of the difference between the two. And I think Sherry's comment that the DHS ones are focused on services while the DOC ones are focused on more security and compliance. It sounds, that's what, Maya, you look like you're gonna go
Well, I
ahead.
mean, you get kids on detention. So if I get like I had a youth come in yesterday on a warrant and she got released today in court, yeah, she's not getting any services, right? But for the most part, I'd say if kids adjudicated to a program, they get a lot of services, right? Like if they've been adjudicated here for, if I get a girl adjudicated in my long-term girls program, she's getting actually a lot of services in the 4 to 6 months that she'd be here. So kind of, I mean, it depends on why they're here, you know?
Okay. So, and that all depends on who the judge or how the judge adjudicates them. Is that
I mean, it
correct?
depends. I mean, if you're comparing it to like an adult system, right? Adult could get picked up and brought in and is waiting for court and they're in jail. And then the other option is they can go to prison for their crimes, right? Like a lot of our juvenile facilities do both within the same facility, right? So you get a kid picked up on a crime and they're brought here and they're probably going home tomorrow. Yes, they're not getting services because they're just here for the night, or even if they're here for like 3 days. It's not so much about the judge, it's about kind of, again, why you're here. Did you get picked up for stealing a car? Then you're just waiting for court right now, right?
Right. Gotcha. Okay, so what are the gaps then that what would anybody, like, what would you identify as the gaps that cause concern?
Vicky, if I can jump in again.
Mm-hmm.
I know we know each other well enough that hopefully you won't be too annoyed by me doing this.
I will not.
Okay, good. Because I think that, and maybe I recommended the language in the agenda, so I own this. I think it's more, what do we need to gather to have the conversation and to get all of the information in one place? Not necessarily like trying to do it today, but rather I think this came up as a real area of interest in the group. And so I think especially for me as like a liaison and probably being the person who's going to help gather a lot of these different pieces, I think it's what does the group want to talk about? What is the information that we need to get? Not actually trying to have the conversation today.
Okay.
Can I raise something that, Vicki, I have been attending, not always as an official member, but attending these meetings for years and years and years. And one thing that I feel like Christy and Paula kind of constantly raised was that like, we don't even know where the girls are, right?
Okay.
So to me, it's like, as we're having this conversation, I keep going back to that, right? Like, can we even just know how many girls are in a DHS facility versus how many girls are in a DOC licensed facility? Where are those? What is it in comparison? I mean, I think we want to know some disaggregated data, right? Like what are the numbers of girls being held? Like, so as we're like trying to tease out these nuances of who's in a DHS facility and why, and what are those facilities versus the DO, like where are the girls and for what, right? Like, well, we have, X number of girls being held in these kinds of facilities and they're there primarily for these 3 reasons, or that seems like something I couldn't tell you.
Are you trying to, are you kind of thinking like a snapshot in time?
Yeah.
Because your thought process is for a good chunk of the girls who come here or like come to our campus, they're in both. Like, I think there's a lot of girls that are in DHS facilities and only go to DHS facilities, but the girls that go to the DOC facilities, they're in both back and forth frequently, right?
Yeah, it would have to be a snapshot, right? Because even when we're talking about like, that seems very fluid, Maya, just like all of our jails are fluid, right?
But even like if you go to the DOC's website and do the like population report, it's still like a 1 day, right? This is what it is today, right? So we couldn't do better than that. But that still seems like a snapshot tells us more than what I feel like I know right now about where girls are in Minnesota.
Is that something that you feel like, oh, sorry, go ahead, Maya.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if this information is useful or not, but I also would like to mention that, like we've seen way more girls in the in our correctional facilities in the like last year, like much higher numbers of girls at any given time. Like right now, I think at the secure building, their girl pod is almost full. And like when I used to work there, there were days when there'd only be one girl in it, you know? And we're seeing that kind of as a theme statewide, is that the number of girls that we're seeing in our facilities at any given time have been quite high, and they've been that for it's getting to be a while now.
So maybe we could try to get data that's both like a snapshot in time, like as of this date, just for right now, but also can we look at the trend line over maybe a number of years to see if we can illustrate what Maya's observing?
If that's possible, I think that would be amazing.
Do you feel like that's something you could get, Crystal?
I just said kind of under my breath in here, I can try.
And Maya, those girls that you just kind of were talking about in the secure, they're not there for status offenses.
No, you can't go to
You can't go to secure. Okay.
No, not to say that they don't have status offenses, but that would not be why they're there, right? Like if they might also be receiving truancy services, but they also stole a car last week, and that's why they're there, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And can I put something, sorry, I'm taking up a lot of space right now, but can I put something else on the radar? Is anyone familiar, probably some of you on the call are familiar with this group called Research in Action, run by Dr. Brittany Lewis? They have been working on a huge survey of it's the survey that they did last year, which I sent out to my networks and I encourage people to participate, was called Justice in Institutions for Black Women, Girls, and Femmes in Minnesota. And so they are finally like doing public presentations of what they have learned about Black women and girls' experiences in our systems, including the criminal justice system here in Minnesota, in June, like 2 days after our next meeting. So I'm attending that, but I think this is tangential to the current conversation that we're talking about. But you know, I saw from the notes last month, the work in Ramsey County. We know that Black girls and Native girls are disproportionate in our systems, right? And so I think it really behooves us to see what to be curious and to potentially learn more about these findings as well. Which Research in Action is just a phenomenal org. I encourage you all to look them up and to read about their work. They do research in collaboration with community. The point is to make change, right? So they never just do research for research's sake, right? It's like, how does research get us to the right solutions for change in our systems? So anywho, I'm just sorry, that was
quit apologizing.
I'll send that info to Don. And then, you know, folks can attend. Either way, maybe Dr. Brittany Lewis would come talk to us, you know, about what they've learned as well.
Okay. So Nikki, do you feel like that Dr. Lewis would be able to kind of parse out some of their findings in ways that would contribute to the discussion we're having right now about girls in facilities, including obviously the racial disparities?
I mean, I'm gonna go to this event in June, so I will see what kind of comes up in that, and then maybe we can reach out if there seems like there's some.
Yeah, she definitely seems like an important person maybe to identify for the conference. That would be awesome. Yeah. Okay, other thoughts on information that we might gather to start this conversation? Okay, well, hearing none, I guess, Crystal, you're gonna find out if you can find out where the girls are.
I will do some follow-up. Yes, yes. And I'm not going to make promises for June.
Yeah.
And so this could be maybe like July, August, you know, a couple of months from now that maybe we can have some of this to share. But yes, I will initiate.
Okay. And maybe you can just maybe keep, if you know, let Don and I know when you might want to get that on the agenda, if you are able to, as you're, you know, kind of trying to track that information.
Absolutely. I'll keep you posted, Vicki.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So I guess the next item on the agenda is public comment. Don, do we have anybody from the public attending?
We do not have anybody in the room, and we do not have anybody from the public on the WebEx.
Great. I mean, not great that they're not there, just, yeah, you know what I mean. Okay. So I think, yeah, I think just a wrap, I guess. Things for next meetings, we are going to have a standing item on the agenda for the conference committee, 15 minutes, unless they indicate they would like more. And other than that, I think we could just see everybody next month, unless, does anyone have any last thing they want to add?
If I can just jump in, I'll add, I think we do have confirmation that the ombuds is going to do a presentation, or the Office of the Ombuds is going to do a presentation in June. And then I'm going to work on Nikki's request to also have a DOC legislative update in June. So just to give people a sense of what's likely coming.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Ombuds for foster care.
Oh, it's ombuds for foster care.
I was informed.
That is, it's Misty Coons who's been given.
Okay.
So
I apologize. Important to clarify which ombuds is coming.
I'll be here, but
Okay. That sounds great. And anything else? All right. Well, thanks everyone. It's been great seeing you, and I will see you next month. Don, do you want to chat quick about the agenda?
Yes, we can. Do you want to do that afterwards?
I mean, we can do it right here, right? There's no one else but us, so.
Let me